Usually when we think about warfare, there are, certain built-in expectations. You have a front line, you have uniforms.
Right.
You know exactly who the enemy is. And the objective is to physically defeat them in this very kinetic, visible struggle. It's binary. You win or you lose.
Yeah, it's that classic, almost ancient model of conflict. Two opposing forces just meeting on a battlefield, it's testing who has the superior strength. Or strategy, I guess.
Exactly. But then you step into the world of Hell's Kitchen, and suddenly that traditional battlefield is completely inverted.
Oh, totally.
I mean, what happens when the front line is the 6 o'clock news? When your mortal enemy is the mayor of New York City? And what happens when his deadliest weapon against you isn't a sniper rifle, but a public commendation?
It's wild. It just completely shatters the traditional hero-villain dynamic. You are no longer fighting someone who wants to break your bones. You're fighting someone who wants to break your reputation, your alliances, and honestly, your mind.
Welcome back to another custom-tailored deep dive, created just for you. Today, we are staring down a massive stack of sources you sent over.
And it is a mountain of material this time.
It really is. We've got detailed critical reviews from IGN, Collider, Fandom Wire, and Telltale TV. Plus, we've got these incredibly passionate Reddit fan threads spanning our Defenders, our Marvel Studios, and television.
The fans are definitely not holding back.
Oh, not at all. They're all currently dissecting the massive double-episode drop of Daredevil, Born Again, Season 2, Episodes 2 and 3. That's Shoot the Moon and the Scales and the Sword.
It is an incredibly dense drop of television. I mean, the community is picking apart every single frame online right now.
So, our mission today is to cut through all that noise. We are going to distill this critical consensus, unpack the shifting moral alignments of these characters, and extract the underlying mechanics of what is actually happening.
Right, so you can be fully up to speed on the overarching narrative without having to spend hours scrolling through forum debates yourself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what these sources immediately reveal is that this isn't just a physical battle of billy clubs anymore. This is a complex psychological war for the soul of New York.
And if we're mapping out this psychological war, Mayor Wilson Fisk is the one drawing the map.
Absolutely.
What the critical reviews really zero in on for episode 2 is how deliberately the show hits the brakes on the physical action. They stall the momentum to focus entirely on political maneuvering.
Which is such a risk, but it works so well.
Yeah, because Fisk is backed into a corner right now. He's managing a multi-front crisis. You've got the missing crew from a sunken ship mounting political pressure, and the revelation that BB Urich is the one behind those viral fake Kingpin videos.
The one's exposing his deep-rooted corruption. He is basically trying to contain a massive public relations nightmare while actively running a criminal empire.
Exactly.
And his fixer, Buck Cashman, who the Reddit fans note is operating with the terrifying calm of a special ops enforcer, suggests this brutal, straightforward move to regain control.
Right. Cashman wants to just drop the bomb and reveal to the public that Matt Murdock is Daredevil.
Which Fisk has known this secret since the Netflix days. It would be an instant, devastating blow. But instead of taking that easy shot, Fisk pivots.
He does the exact opposite.
Yeah, he decides to go on camera and publicly praise Matt as a hero for saving his life back in Season 1, effectively putting out a citywide Amber Alert to locate this missing heroic lawyer.
What's fascinating here is the underlying strategy. Fisk isn't throwing a punch, he is weaponizing the general public.
Yes.
He's taking the city's goodwill and using it as a net to flush Matt out of hiding.
The Reddit threads were analyzing this scene so intensely. There's this one observation on Marvel Studios where a fan noted Fisk must have been literally throwing up in his mouth having to call Matt a hero on live television.
Oh, for sure.
Another user joked that Fisk has a praise kink because of how quickly he weaponizes compliments. But when you look at the actual tactic being used, it's a move straight out of counterinsurgency warfare. Well, you don't shoot the guerrilla fighter. You cut off their water supply. By calling Matt a hero, Fisk forces the adoring public to shine a massive spotlight on him. It's like a toxic boss giving you Employee of the Month just to put a massive target on your back with your coworkers.
That is a perfect analogy. It's brilliant because it isolates Matt through praise. He can't operate in the shadows if every civilian on the street is actively looking for him to shake his hand.
Right.
However, Fisk's political armor isn't entirely impenetrable. The broader context of these episodes introduces a massive threat to his power structure, and it doesn't come from a vigilante wearing a mask.
Oh, Governor McCaffrey.
Yeah, Governor Marge McCaffrey, played by Lily Taylor, steps into Fisk's office and threatens to revoke the Freeport status of his Red Hook operation.
Which is such a fascinating subversion of comic book stakes. What's brilliant about McCaffrey targeting his Freeport status is that it attacks his jurisdictional loophole.
Exactly. A free port essentially allows goods to be stored and transitioned without being subject to standard customs and state oversight.
Right. And without that immunity, Fisk's entire shadow empire is exposed to the light of day.
She points out that he's been privately funding his own Safer Streets initiative to avoid state scrutiny. But capsizing massive cargo tankers in the harbor, that is way too loud for the state government to ignore.
Yeah, you can't just hide a sunken ship.
She proves that Fisk's greatest existential threat right now isn't Daredevil's fists. It's bureaucratic oversight. It's literally a piece of paper signed by the governor that can dismantle his empire faster than any street-level hero ever could.
And this political invincibility that Fisk has built up, it's creating a massive ripple effect down on the streets. Because Fisk can manipulate the press and dodge the governor through bureaucratic loopholes, the law itself is basically rendered useless.
Completely useless.
And this realization is forcing the good guys into a profound crisis, making them question their own fundamental rules.
This ideological paralysis between Matt and Karen isn't just a philosophical debate anymore, it's actively tearing their partnership apart.
Yeah, it's getting really ugly between them.
Karen Page is leaning heavily toward the lethal methods of Frank Castle, the Punisher. She is so thoroughly disillusioned with the legal system's inability to touch Fisk that she crosses a massive line. She actually kidnaps an anti-vigilante task force officer, an AVTF officer named Alan Saunders.
That scene was intense.
It really was. She clashes directly with Matt, arguing that his strict adherence to the law is not just failing them, but it's actively getting people killed.
And it leads to this incredibly tense sequence where Matt checks the kidnapped officer's pulse using his super hearing. He realizes the cop genuinely wants to help the resistance from the inside.
Right, he's actually a good guy.
But then, to maintain the officer's cover story so he isn't killed by his own corrupt unit, Matt has to punch him in the face anyway.
It's awful.
It is. It's a perfect encapsulation of the cognitive dissonance they are dealing with. And into this messy, morally ambiguous vacuum steps Benjamin Poindexter.
Bullseye is back.
He is indeed.
But instead of going on a killing spree, he actually saves Matt's ally, Cherry, from those corrupt AVTF agents. The sources note how jarring this is for the audience. I mean, we know Dex as an agent of ruthless, indiscriminate violence, yet here he is, acting as a protector.
Wait, I actually have to push back on this idea of a jarring shift for Dex. Everything we know about him from previous seasons screams profound, dangerous obsession, not genuine faith or heroism.
That's a fair point.
Because after he saves Cherry, we see him inside Clinton Church, which is Matt's old childhood church, looking for Sister Maggie, Matt's mother. And the scene is drenched in these moody blue hues, surrounded by blue roses.
It's very cinematic.
Very. So I have to ask, is this really about Dex seeking redemption from a higher power? Or is this just a twisted psychological game where he's literally trying to become Matt Murdock? On Reddit, fans are pointing out the terrifying reverse Flash energy here, where a villain is so obsessed with a hero they try to usurp their very identity.
This raises an important question, and it acts as the central philosophical divide of the entire season. You have to look at the three distinct approaches to justice playing out here.
Okay, let's break them down.
First, you have Matt, who stubbornly, almost tragically, clings to a broken legal system because that adherence to process is his last remaining tether to his own humanity.
Right.
Then you have Frank Castle's fatalism. That's the absolute belief that the only way to stop a monster who controls the system is to put that monster in the ground.
And Karen is sort of stuck in the middle.
Exactly. Karen is currently acting as the messy middle ground between Matt's idealism and Frank's fatalism. And Dex. Dex operates as a funhouse mirror, reflecting the darkest extreme of Matt's own Catholic guilt and his desperate desire for absolution.
Wow, yeah.
Dex isn't looking for God in that church. He is looking for the structural blueprints of Matt Murdock's soul.
He is trying to figure out what makes Matt tick so he can replicate it, which is Arguably way more terrifying than him just throwing knives at people.
It really forces you, the listener, to ask yourself a deeply uncomfortable question. If you were standing in Hell's Kitchen and the legal system was completely compromised by a man like Wilson Fisk, where would you draw the line?
That's $1 million question.
Is Matt's strict no-kill rule actually a noble moral stance? Or when the courts are rigged and the police are bought, is playing by the rules just making you complicit in the villain's success?
Because Matt and Karen are essentially paralyzed by this moral divide, they are leaving a massive vacuum of power on the streets. Daredevil is too busy agonizing over the rules of engagement, which means new players are being forced to step up to fight Fisk's corrupt AVTF.
And the anti-vigilante task force is getting increasingly aggressive, acting with total impunity. In episode 2, this escalation reaches a boiling point in a neighborhood bodega.
Oh, the scene with Soledad.
Yeah. The AVTF unjustly arrests Soledad, who is the wife of the former White Tiger, Hector Ayala. It's an incredibly tense escalation that leaves her niece, Angela del Toro, with a massive burden.
Yes, a step up.
Right, she has no choice but to take up her late uncle's mystical amulet and become the new White Tiger to protect her community.
I need to pause our narrative breakdown here for a second because we really have to address a major talking point dominating the source material right now.
You mean the real-world parallels?
Exactly. Both IGN and massive threads on Reddit have pointed out that this AVTF storyline heavily mirrors real-world political issues. Many critics and fans are explicitly referring to this arc as an anti-IC resistance narrative.
Yeah, noting clear parallels between how the AVTF operates in these specific neighborhoods and real-world immigration enforcement.
And we want to be exceptionally clear to you listening. We are simply reporting what the critical sources and the fan base are observing and analyzing.
Right, we're just the messengers here.
Entirely neutrally. We are not endorsing or taking a side on those real-world political parallels, but it is undeniably a massive part of the cultural conversation surrounding these episodes. The show is deliberately drawing from real-world anxieties to elevate the street-level tension.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the writers are organically building a wider network of street-level heroes out of pure, localized necessity. The city is too big, and the corruption is too institutionalized for Daredevil to save it alone.
You just can't be everywhere at once.
Exactly. We see Angela stepping up as the White Tiger to physically defend her neighborhood. We also see Kirsten McDuffie stepping up in the courtroom, defending Jack Duquesne, the Swordsman, in what is essentially a theatrical sham trial orchestrated by Fisk to legitimize his task force.
Which, by the way, Tony Dalton is portraying with incredible charisma. He brings this lethal elegance to the courtroom scenes. But here's where it gets really interesting and honestly a deeply unsettling part of the psychological war we were discussing earlier. We have to look at the subplot involving Heather Glenn.
Yeah, because the collateral damage of Fisk's reign isn't just physical or political, it is intensely psychological. And Heather is exhibiting the symptoms of a survivor who hasn't actually escaped the trauma.
She is heavily hallucinating. She's having these vivid, waking visions of the villain Muse from the previous season. And the sources reveal she has actually kept Muse's mask hidden inside her desk.
It's so creepy.
It really is. IGN made this brilliant, chilling comparison to Tommy Jarvis from the Friday the 13th franchise.
Oh, that's a great pull.
Right. For context, Tommy Jarvis was the kid who finally killed Jason Voorhees. But the trauma was so severe that he spent the next few movies keeping a hockey mask in his drawer, constantly fighting the urge to snap and take up the mantle of the killer himself.
Oh, wow.
The critics are warning that Heather keeping that mask is a physical manifestation of a psychological contagion.
The mechanism of psychological damage here is fascinating. Trauma doesn't just evaporate when the villain is put behind bars or killed. It lingers in the environment, and sometimes it actively infects the survivors.
Like a virus.
Exactly. Heather, holding onto that mask, suggests that Muse's brand of chaos is contagious. While Fisk is waging a passive, bureaucratic war from the mayor's office, the trauma left behind by Muse is actively eroding Heather's grip on reality.
And all this agonizing, slow-burn tension. I mean, the courtroom drama, the philosophical debates over lethal force, the political maneuvering, the psychological decay, it finally detonates in the climax of episode 3.
It is an explosive release of all that built-up pressure. Matt realizes Fisk is hiding illegal weapons and civilian hostages at the secret Red Hook Freeport we discussed earlier.
But there's a huge problem.
Right. Matt doesn't know the internal layout of the facility, and going in blind against a fully armed tactical team is a death sentence. He has to rely on Kirsten McDuffie.
And the mechanics of how they pull this off are incredible. Kirsten was brought to the prison blindfolded earlier in the episode to visit her client, Jack Duquesne. So Matt uses her fragmented sensory memories to map the location.
Such a cool concept.
She remembers the smell of ozone in a certain hallway, the specific metallic rattle of a chain link fence, the echo of her own footsteps against a concrete floor. Matt takes those fragmented human senses, pieces them together using his radar sense, and builds a 3D sonar map of a secret black site he has never actually stepped foot in. It is such a brilliant application of his powers.
It highlights why Daredevil is such a unique street-level hero. He isn't just relying on brute strength, he is weaponizing environmental data and secondhand soundscapes. And that sensory mapping leads directly into one of the most highly praised sequences in the entire series. It's a massive single-take or owner fight scene inside the prison facility.
The Reddit threads were deeply analyzing the choreography of this scene. Critics pointed out how much physicality Charlie Cox brought to the role this season, noting a visible increase in his muscle mass that translates into a much heavier, more grounded fighting style.
He looked huge.
He really did. He got absolutely jacked for this. And then you have the triumphant return of Swordsman. Tony Dalton hasn't played Jack Duquesne since the Hawkeye finale 5 years ago, and he jumps right into the fray, ripping steel prison bars off the walls and using them like Kali sticks alongside Daredevil.
It is a masterclass in action choreography because it tells a story through movement. You have Daredevil fighting with non-lethal, calculated precision, desperately trying to uphold his moral code.
Right.
And right beside him, you have Jack Duquesne fighting with lethal, sweeping elegance. And just when the tactical team pins them down, Angela del Toro arrives to balance the scales.
She drops into the fight in full white tiger gear, slashing tires, taking out perimeter guards, and creating an opening for Karen to drive the hostages out of the facility in a massive cargo vehicle.
It's a beautifully constructed sequence of teamwork.
It really is. But the victory is entirely hollow.
Yeah, this is where the grim reality of fighting a systemic monster like Wilson Fisk truly sets in. Daredevil manages to save the human hostages, but he fails to secure the cache of illegal weapons.
And Fisk is just sitting comfortably miles away in his mayoral office.
Exactly. He receives the tactical update, and he makes a cold, immediate calculation to erase all evidence of his illegal operation and appease the governor's threat of oversight. Fisk orders the complete destruction of the Northern Starship docked at the Freeport.
He blows the ship up.
Yeah.
With his own loyal dock workers still inside.
He murders his own crew without a second thought. Not out of anger, but simply as a bureaucratic house-cleaning measure to wipe the chessboard clean.
It's chill.
Daredevil and Karen are forced to stand there on the docks, watching the burning ship sink into the harbor, realizing the terrifying scale of the sociopathy they are up against.
It is a devastating ending to the episode. It proves that Fisk isn't playing a game with recognizable rules anymore. He will burn his own pieces, murder his own loyalists, just to deny Matt a tactical victory.
If we synthesize the core takeaway from all these critical reviews and fan analyses, it is that episodes 2 and 3 fundamentally transition the very genre of the series.
How so?
Well, we have moved far beyond a kinetic hero versus villain story. This is now a complex, rigged system. The legal framework of the city has been weaponized by the Kingpin. The terrifying realization creeping into the narrative and into Matt's mind is that the only way to win a rigged game might be to flip the board entirely.
So what does this all mean? It means this deep dive serves as proof that superhero media, when executed with this level of nuance, can tackle incredibly dense, difficult themes. It explores the mechanics of systemic corruption. It tests the absolute limits of the law. It delves into the terrifying psychology of trauma, as seen with Heather Glenn, and the desperate search for redemption. It asks us what happens to society when the institutions designed to protect us are bought and operated by the very people harming us.
It leaves you, the listener, with one final provocative concept to chew on long after this deep dive is over. In philosophy, there is a concept known as the paradox of tolerance.
Oh, I'm familiar with this.
Yeah, it suggests that if a society is completely and limitlessly tolerant, its ability to be tolerant will eventually be seized and destroyed by the intolerant.
Right, like if you tolerate the wolves, the sheep eventually get eaten.
Precisely. Daredevil's strict no-kill rule is the ultimate expression of tolerance toward his enemy's existence. He refuses to cross that final line, trusting the system to handle the rest.
Even when the system is broken.
Exactly. But Fisk just blew up a ship full of his own men simply to balance a ledger, and the law can't touch him. So the real question these episodes leave us with isn't whether Matt Murdock will eventually break his golden rule.
What is it then?
The much more terrifying question is whether his rule is the very thing guaranteeing that Hell's Kitchen will eventually burn to the ground.
Wow, when your moral code becomes the shield your enemy uses to destroy your city, maybe the only way to save it is to let that code shatter. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll catch you on the next one.